So they worked there taking care of patients, and until they could no longer keep it up. And finally, I think under General Wainwright, Corregidor surrendered on May 5, May 6, okay, 1942. So my mother was a civilian nurse, but when they moved to Corregidor around April 19, she was finally commissioned as an officer in the Army Nurse Corps. She had a rank of 3rd lieutenant. I never heard that was a 3rd lieutenant. But anyway, so she was now a military nurse. And I think all their group, there were about, I don't know, maybe 20 nurses, you said, Filipino nurses? Yes, that went with them. So, but when Corregidor surrendered, so they became prisoner of war. But they didn't join the death march or anything. What happened was they were forced to stay there for like a month, still taking care of the wounded soldiers at the Malinta Tunnel Hospital. Finally, around June, they were transferred to Manila with the Philippine nurses going to Bilibid prison in Ascarga, and the American nurses going to UST, internment camp. Santo Tomas, yes, for those who don't know what UST is. So my mother was eventually released, being a Filipino, with the, I think, caution that she will not take up arms against the Japanese army once she's released. So she became, theoretically she still was a military nurse, but was now working as a civilian nurse and was assigned to Pampanga Hospital in San Fernando, where she started working around November. And that's where she met my father, who is Kapampangan. So, what were you saying?
Yeah, she also contracted beriberi when she was in prison as a prisoner of war, because she said that in the morning they would be woken up early in the morning to do exercises, and their hands, like they would have 2 tin cans. On one, the porridge would be put, on the other, it would be salt. So they didn't have any protein. And, you know, they were swollen, and she got beriberi. So she said it was a tough time. And going back to when she was in Corregidor, she said during what they call the dogfights between the planes of the US and the Japanese, you know, every time there would be a bomb, it would reverberate inside the tunnel because it was enclosed. So she would really get so scared whenever she'd hear loud noises as we were growing up, although she never talked about her experiences until she was like in her 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We used to see these medals lying around. We didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
So
she got a Bronze Star.
She got the Bronze Star, Prisoner of War, Pacific, and Theater, and the Philippine Campaign. Yeah. Anyway, so these medals would be lying around in our house. We were 3 boys. We would play, you know, army games, and whoever won is awarded a medal. So we didn't know what that meant. So anyway, then it turns out, after I came here to the United States, and so I was working in a hospital in one of the doctor's offices, and he was a Vietnam vet, and I saw a Bronze Star medal. I said, "Oh, you have a Bronze Star medal?" "Yes, that's for valor and meritorious." You know, we played with that, my mother's.
Like, what?
So now we're starting to appreciate her service. because to us, she was a mother. If you were to ask me what do you remember most about your mother, it's not her war exploits, but it's her mahjong play, you know. She loves mahjong. And I remember, so growing up, I learned mahjong just watching her. So when she would take a break, she would let me sit down with the other players to play for her. So,
Yeah.
so to her, yeah, that was like weekend. But she went on still in her career. So after the war in around
1954.
no, 1945, when the Philippines was liberated, General Wainwright pinned the bronze medal to her. She had a picture, but we lost it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I remember while I was going through her stuff was that, so she was a newly grad nurse. So I guess she was watching her paycheck, right? So when they were in Corregidor, she had some cash, and I read her affidavit, and she exchanged it for a U.S. Treasury check for fear that if she had cash, that it would be confiscated. So I guess she must have lost it. So after the war, she was trying to get the money, but she didn't have the treasury check. She had to write an affidavit. And I was looking at another record. You know how much they were being paid? 1,600 pesos a year. So that's like, what, 100 pesos a month? And then an allowance, I think, for being in the service, 36 pesos a month, which is less than $1.
Yep.
But at that time, I think pesos was quite more expensive. Like
I think what you're illustrating is some of the varieties of reactions one could have. I've sometimes thought that if the entire planet could develop a real sense of humor, then we would stop fighting. And I think that's a good place to stop.
So anyway,
Yeah.
time up.
Yeah, I think we're exhausting our time.
That
Okay.
is when-
I mean, not even.
That's her funeral service because she died here at the VA in Atlanta. She had a simple military honor.
presentation of the flag, of the U.S. flag. I was presented with the American flag.
But she wanted to be buried in the Philippines next to my dad, so we had to send her over. We were there in the Philippines, and so.
She had a 21-gun salute. So
No, I didn't think it's
Yeah.
21.
You know, they did 7 times 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was counting.
I was counting. 7
It's not
times.
21. I think they were trying to save on bullets or something. Anyway, so.
Well, I think unless we give up our spot, we're going to get a 40-gun salute to say it's time.
Okay.
Thank you.